Good evening, Michael Usher with you. The Albanese government has handed down a budget that's big on reform and broken promises in equal measure, with a focus on savings given the tough economic climate and global uncertainty. Here are the key takeouts tonight. Negative gearing and capital gains tax concessions are being slashed, breaking a promise the government says is necessary to help younger Australians buy a home. There is a tax cut, $250 to be paid in tax returns, but not for another 2 years. And no surplus in sight, with gross debt soaring beyond $1 trillion. Now, to make sense of it all, we have Australia's most qualified and respected experts from across the worlds of finance and politics. How does this budget stack up and what impact will it have? They will tell us. Also, reaction from across the generations, from younger Australians trying to buy a home to older Australians facing retirement in a spiralling cost of living crisis. And finally, what does Australia think? What do you think? Every one of you at home, ask our experts the budget questions they want answered. So while you're watching, head to our 7 News Facebook page to have your say, and we will bring you the verdict. 7 News political editor Mark Riley joins me now from Canberra. Riles, good evening to you. You've seen a lot of budgets. So what's your initial reaction to tonight's big announcement?
Good evening, Michael. Well, there's a lot in this budget, and a lot of it we knew beforehand. In the end, it was all hat and no rabbit, really. But when Joe Hockey had his lifters and leaners, I think now Jim Chalmers has his earners and his owners. The Treasurer says this is about rebalancing a tax system that's become out of whack over the years, too generous to those who own assets and not generous enough towards those who get their income from working. So now he's rebalancing that. He says it'll reduce the increase in housing prices by about 2% and give first home buyers a fairer crack at owning a home by reducing the tax advantages that investors take with them to auctions. And by directing that investment towards new builds, it has the added benefit of adding to supply. As for the tax offsets for workers, well, that's not strictly cost of living relief. If it was, it would be handed out now when people really need it, not in 2 years. But when we're told the budget says life will be getting a little bit easier. And as for trust in government, well, there's already a trust deficit. This will add to that, that is for sure. Anthony Albanese came to power in 2022 with a promise to be different, that his government would be open and accountable and honest. Well, it's just like any other government tonight, because it's broken more promises. It broke promises on tax on stage 3 in the first term, now promises on negative gearing and on capital gains tax. The interesting thing is that Jim Chalmers says that those tax offsets will themselves be offset by income from the property tax changes, so the effect on the budget will be cost neutral. What does that say? It's interesting, because it means there's plenty of room to design longer term tax cuts, probably just in time for the next election. A budget dividing those who earn and those who own.
The tax system got out of whack, and we're trying to realign it a bit.
Cutting taxes on working, increasing them on investing. The principal target, housing. Negative gearing scrapped for all but new builds, with existing investment properties exempted. The 50% capital gains tax discount on profits from the sale of those properties axed, replaced by higher taxing indexation, all from July next year.
It recognises that there are a lot of challenges in our economy that can't be left unattended any longer.
And not just houses, all investment classes, with family trusts hit with a minimum 30% tax, while for workers, a $250 working Australians tax offset in tax returns, but not for 2 years. 2-year delay, really, before you get it, yeah?
Yeah, what we can afford, and also taking seriously this inflation challenge.
There will be $5 a week tax cuts this July and next, and deep spending cuts of $64 billion, $38 billion from the NDIS, a $15 billion fuel security package, increasing national reserves of petrol, diesel and fertiliser, $6 billion of new medicines on the PBS, and a warning that the Iran war will keep fuel and grocery prices higher for many months.
It's because they can't manage their spending addiction, and they're coming after the hip pockets of Australians.
The budget is stronger, the deficits are smaller and debt is lower compared to what we inherited when we came to government back in 2022.
A government stung by criticism that it hasn't done enough in reform with its massive majority, now preparing to be criticised after this budget for doing too much. including migration. The net intake up 20,000 to 245,000 next year before falling again. The visa system overhauled, with 70% of places reserved for higher educated, higher skilled, younger migrants. The economy, though, battered.
You can see that in the economic forecast.
No surpluses in sight, with economic growth lower at just 1.75%, inflation peaking at 5%, not back below the Reserve Bank's target of 3% before next July, and gross debt above $1 trillion for the first time.
This is the most important and ambitious budget in decades.
And now the big sales job begins. Those tax reforms will raise $77 billion over the next decade, and the spending cuts are substantial, $64 billion over the next 4 years. So the government needs to be given a tick for that. It says it will be anti-inflationary, as is delaying the workers' tax offset for 2 years. Tipping that in now would have provided stimulus and would add pressure to inflation and interest rates. The interesting thing now, Michael, is what will the Reserve Bank think about all this?
That'll be the test, won't it? All right, Mark Riley, thank you very much for that. We'll come back to you at the back of the show as well.